There is a strip of water on this planet that is 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. 33 kilometers. You could drive across it in 20 minutes. And right now, that strip of water is closed. And the global economy is beginning to feel it. Every single day, before February 2026, 20 million barrels of oil pass through that waterway. That is 20% of everything the entire world consumes. 1 in every 5 barrels of oil on Earth passed through a corridor narrower than the distance between 2 mid-sized cities. That waterway is the Strait of Hormuz. And since March 2nd, 2026, tanker traffic through it has dropped by more than 90%. Not slowed, not reduced, 90% gone. In this video, you are going to understand exactly why this strait exists, why it cannot be replaced, what has happened to it since February 2026, and why the countries most affected are not in the Middle East. There is one number, buried in the pipeline data, that explains why the world cannot simply reroute around this problem. We will get to that at the end. But first, you need to understand what this strait actually is. The Strait of Hormuz sits between the southern coast of Iran and the Musandam Peninsula of Oman. It is the only maritime exit from the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. Every drop of oil produced in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, the Way, and Iran, if it travels by sea, must pass through this single corridor. The shipping lane itself is remarkably small. 2 lanes, one inbound, one outbound, each exactly 3.2 kilometers wide. That is the width of a standard runway, times 3. Through that combined 6.4 kilometers of water, more than 130 vessels passed every single day before the crisis. Most of them oil tankers, each carrying more than 1 million barrels. The depth of the channel runs between 60 and 100 meters, deep enough for the world's largest crude carriers. The geography is perfect for oil shipping. It is also perfect for disruption. Because Iran controls the northern bank, every vessel transiting the strait passes within range of Iranian naval bases, missile batteries, coastal artillery, and drone launch sites positioned along that coastline. For decades, Western analysts assumed that Iran could threaten the strait, but never fully close it. That assumption has been tested. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched an air campaign against Iran. Within hours, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps issued warnings over maritime radio. Passage through the Strait of Hormuz was, quote, not allowed. Shipping companies did not wait to find out if Iran was serious. Within 72 hours, the number of vessels transiting the strait dropped from over 130 per day to fewer than 10. War risk insurance premiums, which had been at 0.125% of vessel value per transit, spiked to between 0.2 and 0.4% overnight. For a very large crude carrier, that single transit now cost an additional $250,000 in insurance alone. Most owners decided the risk was not worth any price. By March 2, 2026, a senior URGI official confirmed officially that the strait was closed. Iranian forces began boarding vessels, attacking tankers with drone boats, and, according to U.S. military intelligence, planting naval mines in the shipping channel. On March 10, the U.S. military destroyed 16 Iranian mina-laying vessels. On March 11, at least 3 commercial ships sustained damage from Iranian attacks. A Thailand-flagged vessel caught fire. 3 crew members died. The strait that had never truly been closed in the modern era was closed. Now, here is what that actually means in numbers. Before the crisis, 20 million barrels of oil per day transited the Strait of Hormuz. That figure represented 25% of all global seaborne oil trade. It also included roughly 20% of global liquefied natural gas, almost entirely from Qatar, which has no other export route. 84% of that oil was heading to Asia. China, India, Japan, and South Korea together accounted for 69% of all Hormuz crude flows. These four countries, the manufacturing engine of the global economy, are the most directly exposed to any prolonged closure of this waterway. Japan has almost no domestic oil production. It imports virtually everything it consumes. South Korea powers one of the world's largest shipbuilding and semiconductor industries, almost entirely on imported energy. India's fastest-growing economy depends on affordable crude from the Gulf, and China, the world's largest oil importer, buys more Persian Gulf crude than any other nation on Earth, all of them suddenly cut off from their primary energy supply route. By April 2026, traffic through the Strait of Hormuz had fallen to 191 vessel crossings for the entire month. In normal conditions, that number would be reached in less than 2 days. The question every government, every energy company, and every financial market immediately asked was, is there another way out? The answer is yes. But the answer is also deeply inadequate. There are two significant pipeline alternatives that bypass the Strait of Hormuz entirely. The first is Saudi Arabia's East-West pipeline, also called the Petra Line, a 1,200-kilometer system crossing the Arabian Peninsula from the Gulf Coast to the Red Sea port of Yanbu. In 2026, Saudi Aramco converted it to full capacity, 7 million barrels per day. The second is the UAE's Abu Dhabi crude oil pipeline, the ADCOP, which runs from inland fields to the port of Fujairah on the Gulf of Oman, completely bypassing the strait. Its capacity is approximately 1.5 to 1.8 million barrels per day. Those two pipelines can theoretically move roughly 8 to 9 million barrels per day around the Strait of Hormuz. The strait, before closure, was moving 20 million barrels per day. That gap, 11 to 12 million barrels per day with no route to market, is the number that determines how serious this crisis actually is. It is not a rounding error. It is more oil than the United States consumes every single day. Stranded, inside the Persian Gulf, with no way out. And then, the alternatives were attacked. In April 2026, Iranian drones struck pumping stations on Saudi Arabia's East-West pipeline, cutting throughput by approximately 700,000 barrels per day. Iranian drone attacks also hit the port of Fujairah, the endpoint of the UAE's bypass pipeline, disrupting oil loading operations at its crude export terminal. The backup routes for the backup routes were being systematically targeted. By late April, oil prices had surged toward $120 per barrel. Global gas prices rose 30%. Japan and South Korea, which had already been warning of fuel shortages for weeks, were forced to release strategic reserves. Airlines began rerouting flights around the Middle East, adding hours to journeys and hundreds of dollars to ticket costs. Gulf states that depend on the strait for more than 80% of their caloric imports through food supply ships began to experience shortages of basic goods. The head of the International Energy Agency described the situation as, quote, the greatest global energy security challenge in history. Here is what makes the Strait of Hormuz different from every other choke point on Earth. The Suez Canal can be bypassed. Ships go around Africa. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait can be avoided, with significant extra cost. The Strait of Malacca has alternative routes through Indonesian waters. They are longer. They are more expensive. But they exist. The Strait of Hormuz has no equivalent alternative. The Persian Gulf is a dead end. The only maritime exit is through Hormuz. And all alternatives combined, every pipeline, every overland route, every secondary option, can handle less than 40% of the strait's normal daily traffic. That is the geographic reality that Iran has always understood, and that the world spent decades hoping would never become relevant. There is a ceasefire as of April 2026, but the strait has not fully reopened. The IRC reversed an announcement of reopening within 24 hours. The U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports remains in effect. Hundreds of tankers remain stranded inside the Persian Gulf, fully loaded, unable to move. And here is the number that nobody in the energy markets is discussing clearly. Even at full wartime conversion, Saudi Arabia's East-West pipeline can move approximately 3 million barrels per day to actual export terminals, not the theoretical 7 million maximum. Yanbu Port's tested real-world loading capacity is 4 million barrels per day maximum under normal conditions. In wartime, with reduced crews, elevated security protocols, and ongoing regional instability, the actual throughput is significantly lower. The gap between what the world needs and what the bypass routes can deliver is not closing. It is a structural feature of Middle Eastern geography that was built into the global energy system over 50 years, when the cheapest oil on Earth happened to be located at the bottom of a body of water with only one exit. So here is what we know. The Strait of Hormuz is 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. Through it, before February 2026, passed 20 million barrels of oil every single day, 20% of global consumption. Since March 2nd, tanker traffic has fallen by over 90%. The bypass pipelines can replace less than half of normal flows at best. The alternatives have been attacked. Oil hit $120 per barrel, and the strait remains, as of today, effectively closed to normal commercial traffic. One waterway, 33 kilometers wide, and it is enough to destabilize the energy supply of the entire planet. The question that no government has answered yet, if this crisis accelerates investment in alternative energy routes and Gulf producers permanently reduce their dependence on the Strait of Hormuz, what happens to Iran's single most powerful strategic weapon? We are covering the full infrastructure race to replace Hormuz, the new pipelines, the new ports, and the countries that will control the next energy corridor. Next. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And drop in the comments, do you think the world should have built these alternatives decades ago? Or was cheap Hormuz oil simply too convenient to question? I will see you in the next one.